Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to ladies and gentlemen. No matter where you are, I hope you guys are feeling great and well. Welcome to Architect's Fast Forward webinar series. My name is Kumar Sylvester, a MASA representative, and I will be your MC for today. Firstly, I would like to thank Architects 2021 for giving MASA the opportunity to conduct this session. We are pleased to have this collaboration with Architects. For those who don't know what MASA is, I hope you can lend an ear as I explain further. MASA stands for Malaysian Architecture Student Alliance and is a non-profit student community operating directly under Pertubuhan Architect Malaysia, or PAM, consisting of student representatives from all architecture institutes in Malaysia. So it is a platform where Malaysian architecture students join forces to learn, share with appreciation of the past, generating sustainable living in the present, and bringing unlimited possibilities to the future. Our mission is to develop an effective platform and network between Malaysian architecture students and professionals. We serve as liaisons between students and PAM. Okay, so now let us greet our special guest for today. We present to you once again the chairman of PAM Education Committee, Architect Adriata Aziz, and the one and only Architect Fawad Suhal Abbasi, who will be talking to us on the topic of color and material in architecture. To begin with, let's welcome Architect Adriata Aziz to say a few words.
Hi, Guma.
Hi, Architect Arianta. How are you?
Thank you. Fine, I'm fine. How about you? Good?
I'm good. I'm feeling very great.
All right. Thank you for your introductions. Well, greetings to all. Hello, everyone. Today, 16th of June, beautiful day. Welcome to Architects Fast Forward webinar series by digital platform Architects Online, organized by MASA, Malaysian Architecture Student Alliance, supported by PAM, Pertubuhan Architect Malaysia, Malaysian Institute of Architects, and also PAM Education Committee. And on behalf of ACAI, Acacia Committee Architectural Education, I would like to welcome to all of the viewers today. Thank you for joining us. Today is a special session, Color and Materials in Architecture. So we can discover the processes, understanding, and experimentation of color and materials to achieve harmony of a space in question, and how we could incorporate this to our architectural designs in future. So I hope the viewers today's session, really hope that we can expert to be fascinated by the design approach from Suhal and Fawad Architects, as it revolves around the different uses of colors and materials. Well, together with me, my good friends all the way from Pakistan, architect Fawad Suhail Abbasi. He's an architect, partner and design lead at Suhail and Fawad Architects that was founded by his father, the eminent architect Suhail Abbasi, in the year 2000. Suhail and Fawad Architects is an award-winning multidisciplinary architecture and interior design firm based out of Islamabad and Karachi in Pakistan. The studio is known for its bold design approach, simple and straightforward spaces that are experiential, material-friendly, and truly contextual. Fawad has been recognized on various forums for his design sensitivity, play of natural lights, green courtyards, and ventilation that is primary to all his works and evidence in all his projects, may it be architecture, planning, or interior design. Architect Fawad Suhail Abbasi also had the honor of representing his country on multiple professional platforms and served as office bearer. To name a few, he is the founder chairman of ACYA, ACYA, Acacia Committee on Young Architectures in the year 2015 to 2016, and also past regional representative UIA Zone 4, Young Architects Work Program, International Union of Architects in year 2016 to 2017. In the year 2016, he was elected to the National Council of IAP, Institute of Architects Pakistan, where he served a 3 year term as its national vice president. Furthermore, he is the founding members and honorary secretary of Europe, Eastern Regional Organization for Planning and Human Settlements, Pakistan chapter year 2021, and the international associate of AIA, American Institute of Architects. Well, ladies and gentlemen, especially for the students, his title of this talk today, Color and Materials in Architecture, which explores the processes of design that involves a series of research, understanding, and experimentation of color and materials in order to achieve harmony of space in question. Color is light, beauty, and harmony, but also important role mental balance, comfort, and a sense of excitement. Color in architecture embellishes, highlights, illuminate, separate, and distinguish spaces. Today, ladies and gentlemen, he will share efficient design methods incorporate color and materials in architecture for buildings, interiors, and urban spaces, exploring the most profound aspect of planning. So, ladies and gentlemen, students, fasten your seatbelt. I want everybody relax and gain positive energy, set positive mindset. So I hope everybody have a good coverage. So without further ado, I want to welcome my good friend all the way from Pakistan, architect Fawad Sohail Abbasi. Hi, architect Fawad.
Hey
How are you,
Adriana,
brother?
how are you doing? How are you doing?
Good, good, good. How about you?
Hey, lovely, lovely. It's always an honor to be part of course, Masa, Pam, and of course Akai, because you're the next chair of Akai. So it's great to see you in so many shoes, man. It's amazing.
Thanks God, thanks God. I mean, it's a pleasure and honor to have you today, and we would like to say thank you so much for spending time and your contributions today. I think the last time I met you back in Karat, no, it's
Islamabad.
Peshawar. I went to
Yeah,
Peshawar in Islamabad.
yeah,
Yeah. So
yeah.
really hope to see you in KL soon. Yeah.
Definitely,
So
definitely.
without further ado, Architect Fawad, I think every attendees waiting for your talk today. So I pass the floor to you. So enjoy the
Thank you
show.
very much.
Architect Fawad,
Thank you very
the
much.
show is yours now.
Thank you so much. I hope everyone can see my screen. Well, it's always an honor. I've been lucky enough to be part of Archidex a couple of times. I've been able to be in KL to be part of this amazing works and an event done by PAM every year. Unfortunately, of course, COVID has changed many things, but we're hoping to be back together very, very soon. Um, this particular talk, Architects Fast Forward webinar series, is something that I cherish, and I think that's very important to understand that architecture cannot be done independently. Uh, as architects, we're artists, we're designers, we've got so much to show, and we have to really be very eco-friendly and learn from the technologies that we see every year or things that are happening around the world. So what my firm has been able to do is definitely, I would think, is due to the experience of what my father has brought in of his last 50 years that he's practiced in Pakistan, being a co-author of many amazing buildings around the country. And he's been able to really define a design language, a philosophy for the country and for the office. So I think starting practice with him almost about 20 years ago, I did learn and continue to learn from him. So this is why I thought color and materials in architecture was the right topic for talking about the various elements of design that he worked on, and he talks about the reason why he thought that the local indigenous materials were more important, and they were more about Pakistani defining a Pakistani architectural and design style that every country tends to have of their own. I remember when I started off with him, he told me, and because as in Urdu we call it Ustad Muhtaram, or a teacher. Um, for me, he's been the greatest mentor, who's taught so many architects and engineers and draftsmen and everybody that's worked in his office for the last 50 odd years. But since the last 20 years, since I've been practicing with him, we've had some amazing bunch of people coming in with interns. We've got architects, we've got engineers, and so many others from the same discipline who tend to work with us on large scale or medium sized projects, because we've been able to do the office works in large scale high rise buildings. We're doing mid rise, we're doing farmhouses, we're doing interior project, we're doing residential single unit family units. It's always been about our approach. Of course, for us, context plays a major role. Our design embodies integration, regionalism, and color, with one reinforcing the other. Even the interior design affirms the architectural traditions of the local context, and which brick is truly one of our favorites. We believe in creating our own gardens if we don't have any, and try and have natural greens around wherever we're designing. So my father, as his apprentice to this great man, architect Sohail Abbasi, we deal with every project with an integrated approach. We are both modernists at heart and take strong influence from history, context, and local materials expressed through geometric forms that create series of augmented spaces. I think that's very, very crucial to our design philosophy. And our work is highly inspired by nature. The outcome of our building designs is a continuous dialogue between water and landscape. Many factors reveal themselves as critical during the realization of a concept, starting from any initial idea to analysis of the requirements to establishing the basis of design that will be elaborated during the process. Everything is connected to the other. So I firmly believe that if we talk about landscape and water, this is truly what Soil Fawad Architects believes, and we really nurture our team to look at these aspects whenever we're designing a project. And what that has done for us is that whenever we are on site, we try to really look at whatever our neighborhood offers us. We could be in a hilly area, we could be in a very tight, congested footprint with houses next to you, with a very tight street at times. But that does not mean that you do not allow yourself to really open up and think of spaces that are important to not look at as a concrete block, but to bring in the outdoors indoors. And what better way but then to use landscape as the major element. The idea that the firm works with, when you visit a site, a thorough analysis is done. Study models are done depending on the scale of the project after the planning is finalized. And the office affirms the architectural traditions of the local context, especially making sure to follow use of materials when the project is being built. Each phase of the project is studied carefully, effectively, and counterbalanced by customized traditional details designed at the studio. These details will always have an interplay of natural light and color. So if you look at this slide showing one of our courtyard houses, we really kind of celebrate our traditional elements. This particular project is one single unit family residence for a family of 5 people. But we really nurture the fact that if there is a central space and you've got a neighborhood which are with houses on all 3 sides, what do you do? So you play with the U-shaped plan. How do you bring that? Of course, then you look around traditional elements like the door that you see of the veranda, of course, the window, the blue window on top, really bringing back all traditional elements within the house, but then balance them in a way that they don't look out of place. They don't look alien to your project. That's something that we follow for all our projects. Uh, Again, how do you really get there? I mean, that's very, very important. You get there by continuous working on a plan, continuous understanding the layout of what the client really needs. How is that possible when you're doing, how much time will that need? Well, of course, these initial designs take time, and I think the clients are aware of that. So whenever we're planning a project, it cannot be done on the AutoCAD or any other software. We really look at the manual part of it. So whenever I'm doing a design or my father's planning it for. He always believes that unless you're working with pencil and pen and maybe later in ink and colors, this particular planning phase also involves really getting into the nitty gritties of the work and how you want things to be like. And in my case, I've learned from that. Every project has been learning for me. We've also realized that as the lead designers or the lead architects of all projects, we need to have solutions for each and every aspect of building we are designing, and we need to clarify functionality, connections between various spaces, use of materials and color, and also enhance legibility. So, I mean, there is absolutely no way that you leave that to your subordinate or leave that to your engineering associate. Every aspect of your design has to be dealt with yourself as the lead architect, the lead consultant on the project. So, I mean, the elements of design, of course, are for us are always mostly always inside out, because we feel that these connections are crucial to our philosophy. Whereas layouts are established with 3D visual studies. Once the space program is formulated, many ideations are done simultaneously to study to form the building type. So I mean, it could be a house for a smaller family. It could be a large farmhouse for lots of people, or maybe very limited people. But then these aspects are always discussed with the clients. They're given knowledge of what really needs to be done, because at times you do come you meet people who always want more, and so we educate them in the process of really the spaces are crucial. The importance of these spaces are very crucial to the design of your building. And since post COVID, we've been able to really convince our clients that they need to work on smaller buildings and work on the landscape part of it, so that you can be outdoors more than indoors. Or if you're indoors, you're in the outdoors. As you continue to learn, we also seek to establish a careful, emotional, interactive use of light and color in a very subtle manner. We are also always looking for solutions that can satisfy the aesthetics feeling and well-being of the people. So, I mean, if we talk about materials and color, they are absolutely important to understand that they go together. I mean, you cannot design a building independently, not thinking of how the building is going to further relate to the exterior of where it's placed, or what the colors are going to be, how it relates to the context or the region of where you're building it. So we work in Karachi mostly and primarily in Islamabad. So there are two different kinds of weather. There's different kinds of breeze that blows in. So you have to really think on these elements. And of course, Islamabad comes with more brickwork, or we have more buildings in brick. On the other way, if you're doing it in Karachi, we try to work with materials that are from that area, from the area that it comes out of. So it's always important to study and understand the area that you're working in. So for us, as hardcore regionalists, we feel that it's important to look at the materials that are there. And then how does that relate to the interiors of the building? I mean, you cannot leave the interiors aside and say, okay, listen, I'll look at the interiors later. No, the box from the inside is as important as it is on the outside. So you need to plan the building from both the inside and the outside together. It has to complement these elements. So again, the color, the use of artwork, the use of light, the natural, both artificial, has to be incorporated within that particular footprint. And how the usual color kind of becomes element of surprise for the people who live in it and the people who come to it. These two slides are very important for the simple fact that on the right is one of the houses that we've done, and on the left is an office space that we've done. So again, how the color of the interior furniture, how the elements of the floor, the walls, can really be a kind of a lighting factor, a kind of a celebration of architecture within. And for us, for the office, it's very important to look at every small little detail of how you place or how you bring in light, or both artificially and through the natural light that you can gather from the outside. This particular building is very important. It was recently exhibited in an open house, virtual open house, only on the weekend. And this house is very important for the simple reason that it's not just cost effective, but we were able to realize that the location of the building kind of dictates how the building should stand out in a way that both the landscape part, the landscape element of the building can play a major role in the design phase of how the end product might be. This building that I'm showing you is important because the design philosophy employs a broad, comprehensive understanding of cultural identity. It talks about interaction of natural materials, light, and pigmentations, the kind of colors that we use. The ceiling, the orange ceiling, which is kind of a floated ceiling, brings in light through the offset from the so that uh, people playing table tennis don't really feel that the light is kind of getting into their eyes. But then again, how the other light elements don't become a problem for you. Similarly, the entrance walkway of a similar building, how we've tried to bring in natural light, and the walkway of the colonnade becomes an important factor of the color and its usage within that identity. So for us, psychology and in the planning of each project of how people would react to it becomes kind of crucial. And it every time that we step on a new project, we realize that it has to be dealt with even more now. So I think that that way we're able to understand the kind of users that we'll have, and then we kind of adopt our design accordingly. This particular project, which is an under construction mixed use building with a mall and residential tower, it's a mid rise 10-story building. In that also, we're because we're right now the almost structure is almost complete, and being a four-sided open building with a sky park on the top floor, we dealt with color and materials in a very interesting manner because we felt that it has to be both subtle, but then landscape will open up and make it part of the building, and it sort of open up in a way that it will become the identity of that building. So the building has about 7 courtyards. Every apartment has a view towards the side and becomes a corner apartment. Brick and Fairface concrete, one of our favorite materials, like I've said earlier. We've used that, and then again bringing in natural light and artificial light both as an element of design that became a signature whenever we design a building now. Uh, so, like I said, our office is based on not just the matter of architectonics or something that is mechanical. We've always looked at a building as an art form. The identity of the office with the last few years has become about really experimenting with materials, brick being the favorite, but of course, how brick would complement other materials because it is something that is more lasting. It ages very beautifully, very gracefully, and we always try and reflect our philosophy in whatever we create. So it's important for our studio to start a project once we've specified our materials rather than saying, okay, listen, we will think about it later. No, every time that we design a building, we've always tried to make sure that we specify the materials. And many times the clients that are coming, I would say about 65-70% people that come to our office come for buildings in brick because that's our design style. But even then, if we are looking at a client pigmented plaster building, maybe with brick or without, we do specify our desire to really understand it first before starting building design. Uh, for us, it is like putting together a piece of Lego and then or blocks that juxtaposing them by leaving multiple vacuums as breathing corridors, like subtracting from a series of blocks. This leads to private, secure, unobstructed views from every room. It also helps achieve good airflow systems due to self-created voids as a natural transition. I mean, that's how it is. I mean, we do intend and always intentionally look at building types as an art form. This particular building, which is the Polo Complex, which we were recognized for, received the honorable mention a couple of years ago, is a rather large project, and we were able to convince our client to really work with brick as a permanent material. And what that did is that there is absolutely no need for any paintwork later or anything else, and it's really grown out of the green areas around it that we've developed. So this five-phase project, we did the landscape, the infrastructure, the architectural design, and many other elements of the project. We were able to define these courtyard buildings, these brick buildings, as a major idea for future extensions inside the complex. Later, in an office building that we did, again, we were able to bring in natural light to skylights somewhere there, and because they're a major part of our design. In areas like these corporate office buildings, we were able to bring in a natural light through a large skylights with tensile fabric structures. Again, I mean, bringing in a yellow sail within that, it kind of reflects the light in a very interesting manner. On the outskirts or the outside facade of the building, we've been able to create and juxtapose volumes. Finally, again, in the last few years, the building is graced in a beautiful manner. Therefore, the natural factor of light and material-friendly items were able to deliver the building in the best way possible. The badminton court that we designed a couple of years ago, I mean, the idea of using color, as both me and my father are big fans of Louis Barragan and Ricardo Ligarata and Victor, we were able to really study color, because in Pakistan, it's not very easy to convince your clients to really use color. But for this particular project, it was, of course, color has been crucial to our language. But then in some spaces, color may play a major role in how the building might be able to relate to it. So in this case, it was a very important part of the design process, and it actually worked with the interiors as we were doing the building from the inside. Again, another corporate building, a mid-size building, facade done in brick, really experimenting with how brick would be. Again, simple, clean lines, and for us, a more everlasting kind of a building, plantation and natural greens around it. The roof garden that we did for the same building was able to give it a kind of a life where the end users could really go over and enjoy these spaces. We also believe that experiential architecture can influence people's behavior and ultimately their lives. I think it's very important. I mean, even as non-architects, many times when we were even studying or we were younger, we would always notice a good building, or at least a building that talked about experiences. So even if you're not an architect, you would always notice and maybe feel happy at times if you looked at a good building. So I think it's with time, I've also visualized even more that an architecture needs to be simple. And I think as growing up in a family of artists and architects, for me, I always looked at a nice space uh, as a happy space. So for me, it was when I started working on my father, I always looked at textures and materials like they were part of my philosophy. And whenever I looked at really experiencing a good piece of architecture, I always realized that the architect or the designer had really thought of what materials they may use. So within our office, when we're looking at a building texture, we always kind of complement that with color. So if you look at this entry facade of a building that we've done, the yellow will always complement the rustic mustard looking patent tile that we developed for this project. This was done in 8 by 8 inches by 12 by 12 inches pattern, where we looked at a 4 by 4 inch grid, and it with time it's kind of really weathered beautifully. I mean, that's how brick is. That's how materials like these are. So for us, these values are mostly used to give kind of a virtual balance. and human comfort, texture, light, and scale. The texture of all the materials being used is kept simple and bold for kind of deliberate contrast between scale with its natural surroundings or something that you've done as you go along. I really like this amazing line by Renzo Piano. One of the great beauties of architecture is that each time it is like life starting all over again, and I think that's so beautifully said by this amazing architect. And if you look at our sketch that we did for a project a couple of years ago, we cannot put away design and say, listen, I do have, I look at it later. But no, in color and materials always will be dealt with together as one whole. Um, so if you look at a building or a building type, the materials are always necessary and specifically designed for the building type, and that means that coming up with forms and ideas that are close to what we also most of the clients that come into us, they do talk about using a certain material, and they come to us because they want to now even more look at permanent materials. This really important sketch that I thought I'd share with you by my father, who when we were working together on a project a few years ago, while we were developing a hospitality building. Proportional details in my work are what create an intimate movement and grand yet intimate scale. I think we when we were working on this, we were kind of looking at the transition of the plan and its development. By the end of it, we were able to do a brick building and with Fairfax concrete. So I just thought that at times we feel that we're such hotshot designers when we're out of school that we forget to experiment. I think someone who's been out of school for over 50 years, like my father, still believes that there's no ending to learning. So I think we all need to understand that these transition, the phases are very important to our design. The concept is always simple and straightforward, and we can focus on the transition between the indoor to the outdoor, creating multiple introverted landscapes. I think it's something um, that is so apt and so appropriate to the different elements of uh, that we as architects never at many times don't realize. And as architects, we have multiple tasks and endless varying range of formal challenges that we have to find solutions to. So, and we talk about the number of things that we have to do as architects. There are many. We have to first look at designing. Do we ever get a chance to sit and only think about design? Never. Do we ever? Then we have to think of the new projects that we need to bring in to run the office. Then we need to look at deliverables, look at the processes in producing the number of drawings required to be submitted initially for approvals, and then of course the working drawings, construction drawings. So it's so many different elements that we need to look at. This sketch that I'm showing you is, of course, for an under construction building, the one that I talked about earlier. The 10th floor of this mid-rise building is a sky park at the top, and it is definitely something that I'm looking forward to enjoying in the next couple of years when this area will be developed. But then from day one, this building was designed with the sky park in mind, and it's still kind of with time it's improving. And whenever I go back to the site, I enjoy how the building is transformed to where it is now. And like I said, it is a brick and Fairfax building with major elements of landscape, texture, and color. Again, as we go along, we look at all these elements and we try and show that there is never an ending to really studying the materials and the how it kind of weathers with time. This building that which is the badminton court and fitness gymnasium building, like I said, we had a special tile patent for it. We used pigmented plaster with it, and and then of course color. So there's really, when I remember doing the sketches of the building as you were developing the facade, we made sure that the color part of it was really a major factor in the end product, and how it complements the major material, which is of course the self-patented concrete tile. And of course light plays a factor, like I said. So night lighting, and how these lovely walls and the color need to be really optimized and really showcased at night, because landscape on the right, landscape all around it, becomes a major factor of how the building will kind of rotate around it, and of course how it will relate to the landscape. These are two different projects that I thought I'd share with you. One being on the left, being one of the courtyards of a house. Again, how it relates to the various terraces and how it relates to the floor. The patent floor that you see in terracotta was specifically developed for this building type. We designed the floor and then we related it to the white of the building. Both these projects are in Karachi. We normally, because of the hot climate there, we try and work mostly with white and other materials that we find are kind of contextually workable in that area. And then on the right, you see the house that I showed you earlier. This multi-layered concrete courtyard in the center with the bridge going on top. So the house can be really seen from all levels. How these lovely charocas, how these beautiful windows open out to this multi-layered courtyard, and how this beautiful tree has grown and become part of the landscape of this really really happening design, I would think, which I feel is really close to our design philosophy, and it kind of matures every time we design a new building. Uh, so, like I said, materials and how materials relate to color is very important to any architect's design. This building that we did a couple of months ago is a farmhouse building, and this brick jali that you see relates to the white. White again, we feel it's the most amazing color, and how does it relate to the brick or other elements? It kind of becomes part of every single material that you work with. And like Malaysia, we do have seasons that are quite hot. Therefore, we try to use colors that can complement, not just complement the materials, but then become part of the landscape. Again, how does other colors relate to building types? How does brick relate to the orange terracotta or a fair face concrete block? It does. I mean, it's again done with constant experimentation, constant working with materials and elements that become part of a philosophy that we really feel and cherish. And I think as on a daily basis, like whenever we're doing a new building, this exposure to the available materials and the history behind these traditional elements, they've actually been really important to how we now look at architectural design in our studio. So one more view is that architecture has a subtle but huge influence on the community. You may not live in that building, but as you pass it, you will invariably be affected by it, its presence, which influences you regardless of whether or not you are aware of it. This is so true, and that I mean, you can always notice something that is apart from anything which is average. I won't know if average is the right word, but you always notice something good. It could not just be a building. It could be anything that is out of the ordinary. It stands out. So a good piece of architecture is always important and always leaves a mark on you. So design is a blend of respect and negotiation for the aesthetics and ideas that can make each project. And I completely agree with this quote, and that's how we work around it. So color is not only is evident in our work in terms of walls. We try and bring in color through skylights. This particular skylight that you see on the right is an element that we feel the blue and the yellow of the light that brings in it really brings a natural color tone on the walls. And as the sun direction changes every few hours, it changes the quality of light within that building. On the left, as you see, how we feel that brick as a permanent material can really change the quality of the permanency that you see on a building. This farmhouse is one of our favorite buildings, and I thought I'd share that with you. It's been a bit part of an open house also with over 1,000 people that came to see it that day. It was open for public. Again, designed by my father, and I assisted him on it as the project architect with him. We were able to improve and see how a horizontally grown structure, which spreads at about 9,500 square feet, can be dealt with by breaking the volumes and bringing in natural light through the side skylights, the archways, the permanency of the brick itself, how everything can be correlated. And it was a successful attempt, I would think. The color of the floor versus the color of the wooden stain versus the color of the walls and the light that we bring in through skylights really bring in that natural kind of a tone that we expected to cover as we went along. And again, uh, these buildings kind of grow and become timeless as they go along. That's how we look at it. In our project, courtyards act as breathing spaces, and themes are explored by using the three principles of architecture: functions, stability, and beauty. The process is to experiment with transparent partitioning and definition of space using a variety of points, lines, and surfaces. This helps clearly define the relationship between interior and exterior, and enclosures designed to intensify wind flow and natural light. That is absolutely how we look at it. How the courtyard will react to the outside, how the privacy of who you're doing the house for or who you're doing the building for acts as, because we do come from a community, from a society where for some privacy is absolutely essential. So whether brick jali or a skylight or an arch skylight, how that does that relate to it? So this project, the jali that you see on the right, is the courtyard on the ground floor level, which is of course coming from for the house done for a family, which is kind of private, wanted a space that could really be a space that they could sit in and nobody could actually look inside, but then they would be careful in terms of how it's placed. Again, in the courtyard, showing you how the water wall and how the entrance would relate to the entrance balcony, looking out to the basement courtyard, and how that each room, may be a living room or the bedrooms, look into it without anybody really looking inside that space, and it's a very private space. So every time that we kind of design a building, and the requirements coming through our clients, we try to address every single element of it, keeping our philosophy in check, and that is something that has been successful in many areas. Again, like I said, it's a learning curve, a learning element, and we tend to learn from each project that we do. The interior manifests complete admiration of natural materials, geometrical patterns, styles define various spaces and are attributed in various interiors and exterior spaces. And I think this courtyard, wherever it's placed, even if it's an inward-looking courtyard or an outward-looking courtyard, the treatments, the use of color, the use of a palette that complements the exterior materials, and the furniture used always has to work together. It can never be designed unindependently. It has to be seen as one. The use of these courtyards and where and what it's looking at, the landscape around it, the use of the color, everything blends together once you design it in totality. How the flow comes along, how the brick jali would react, how the trellis spaces, the way it would create shadows, each and every small detail, it needs to be looked at independently, but then brought together with a large space. So every time we primarily on the relationship between indoor and outdoor spaces and the human occupants, ensuring that even sitting inside, you're almost outside to keep the privacy intact. Big jalis are introduced that create micro environments while bringing a formal closure to various spaces within the building vocabulary. So if you see and if you look at our buildings that I've shared with you, you will see that brick jali is also a very important part of our design. for the simple reason that where we come from, privacy is a crucial part, and what better way than to use elements that bring in natural breeze, but then kind of design an enclosure or define it very clearly. Uh, like I said, and I've been going along, the skylights also play this part at times when you want to bring in natural light, but then you have a neighbor next to you, but you still are able to bring in natural light through these brick skylights or plain skylights. And of course, the Chiroka with the colored light, the colored glass that you see, is another element that we feel is something that we've studied, we've gotten historically adopted from the architecture from the subcontinent and made part of our design. So, like I said earlier, I mean, the elements or our design philosophy is 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 is, uh, is a celebration of how we look at small little ideas or small little neighborhoods that are at times either very congested. They could be, or we could be working in a place which has beautiful views, or areas that we need to make views for the end user. So every time that we're doing this building type, we first of all study and look at where the building is going to be placed. At times we do a natural courtyard, or at times we get a view on the outside and we open terraces and balconies traditionally in a manner that it can be enjoyed even more. And then, of course, the use of patented tiles or natural materials enhances it. Permanency of the brick jali as a railing, a detail, or as a skylight, or as a brick facade, they all become naturally kind of a part of the design and part of the building type. I think a very important quote that I made part of my presentation: no person who is not a great sculptor or painter can be an architect. If he is not a sculptor or painter, he can only be a builder. For an architect, I think so many disciplines come together. I mean, if I remember correctly, and I'm sure that goes around for every school around the world, we are given a kind of a fast track idea of in our first year when we start college of how to build, how to paint, how to work with elements in sculpture, how to do printmaking or fine arts. So we've been given a flavor of all of that, and that is a complete package of an architect. And if that is not there, I don't think you can call yourself an architect, because it's something that is born within. And even if you want to do good buildings, you need to have a taste of everything that comes along. Uh, just showing you how these how we relate the office or a restaurant in and how we bring in color through that. Like I said, landscape and water is crucial to our design, and this is something that we truly celebrate every time we do a building. In both these slides, the images, you can clearly see how we've been able to bring in these natural materials and make them part of our buildings. Color, like I said, because color and materials is what we as architects come with. This building that we received an Architectural Design Excellence Award in 2009 was one of the first large buildings that I worked on. It, like in the end, we talked about why would color be important in a building like this. I think it is. It was the first time that I worked with a larger palette, and I realized that the color scheme of this interior of the building that we've done would really change the environment of the interior, and it was very successful that way. And I'm so glad that we were able to experiment with color. This is a recent CSR project we've done for an NGO. It is part of a small village, but part of the urban setting in Islamabad. But it's one of the first buildings as you enter the area. We only wanted to do something which is fairly simple but permanent. So what I simply did was that I converted the building type into, and I called it the brick box, and it's completely cladded in a brick, but with an element of surprise. And so my clients tell me that everybody wants to come in and see what's happening inside. But the box outside sort of leaves an element of surprise for you, which is something that we really believe in. Our projects are indeed wonderment that utters a dramatic display of life and accepts its future hopes for indigenous architecture. It is the creative conception which nature promises to revive our age-old traditional courtyard architecture. I feel that it's important to never forget your roots, to never forget where you come from. That's something that I've learned from my father, and that's what we teach our studio, our team every day, that you cannot forget the historical context that you are part of, the traditions, the culture you're part of. So we try to learn from history, but then try to use technology to improve on it, but never forget it. One of our restaurants that we've done, again, the rooftop, the second level of that building, uh, we were able to bring in color through walls, through floors, and really enjoy the nature in its total capacity. The restaurant on the first floor, the same building or the same project, we were able to bring in color through furniture, through walls, through brick, and really complement the interior of the building as we did the exterior as well. So we start with analysis of room layouts, circulation routes to formative design. After resolving these multiple functions mentioned in the client's brief, we work with solid geometric modules scaled to a particular size to create various interior spaces. We emphasize on the hybridity of the larger forms and spaces to reach the final design. So the may it be corporate design, may it be some kind of a retail outlet, a large building type, a mixed-use building. We really try to really formulate and understand the needs of the client and bring in color through natural materials, through something that we've designed specifically. And the site brief defines and breaks the building into private, semi-private, and formal spaces. So every time that we're doing a building, we run along a palette, a color. We try and understand how and the need of the end user, and then we work with it as we go along. At the end, I try to share this building because we're at this point is under construction. It's the first hotel Marriott courtyard in Pakistan that's coming up, and we're really excited about this project because, of course, we've done the building design, but we've done the architecture. We've also done the interiors, and this building is again a four-side open plot, and we're using color and material brick again, and really enjoying celebrating what the building is all about. It's designed as a modular uh, building done out of, and we really wanted it to really come out of the earth as a form and not be alien to the area. Like I said, history and historical context is crucial to our design. Another project that's under construction in a hilly area, again, we've tried to use local materials and really celebrate the landscape around it and then create our own as we go along. Our buildings are humble on many levels: formal, functional, social, technical, and so on. We make an effort, a conscious one, to address these objectives in terms of access, pragmatic relationships, wider climatic and contextual factors. At the end, I thought I'd share a sketch of ours. Design is where science and art break even. And thank you. I thank all of you for the lovely opportunity to share our work. And I hope we were able to tell what Soil and Fard Architects is doing in Pakistan. Thank you all so much.
Wow, Fawad. I mean, it's such a beautiful storylines, and every great design that you share with us begins with an even better storyline. Because the way you portray the design and art should be born from the selection of materials, color. Because for me, Fawad, color is a power which directly influence the soul. Even the materials shape your idea. I think this
It,
is talking about the ending part when you say art should be born from the materials and colors itself. All right.
it does. It does. Thanks, Adrianta.
I think well done. Yeah.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. When we were growing up, and especially when I became part of a beautiful fraternity of architects, and where I was able to meet such amazing people that I never thought I could. Each architect, each new friend has taught us something, and I think context is very important to any architect. And I think that if you do not celebrate your history, your
Right.
traditions, I don't think there's ever going to be a country's architecture that you can celebrate. So I think it's very important to really go back to your roots once and for all and look at what best you can learn from, you can pick up from, and then of course improve yourself as you go along.
Exactly. Exactly. I mean, uh, I've been to your house, your parents' house. Remember that my visits were back 2, 3, 4 years ago,
Yeah.
and then you shown that one of the ceilings made by bricks, and then it
Yeah.
was like amazing. It was amazing. Before I go through the question from the floor here, when I've been to one of your projects, people will feel the spaces, especially the selection of colors. If you don't mind it to share that, when we how does the color, can set the mood, the ambience, the feelings from the people.
Rianta, I think if you remember when we were growing up, we were told never to use red color. It sort of depresses you.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, even if you look at the wall behind me, I mean, there's always the reason for using a color in a building or in a
Yeah.
space. For us, whenever we're doing that in the office, we sit along, we specially define our specifications, and you cannot do it independently. You have to think on what works for that place, what works for that context. So,
Right.
like I said in my presentation, Louis Barragan has been one of my favorite architects. I mean, he's been so bold about using color in Mexico when where he would do, and then of course Ricardo Ligarata later did the same, and some other architects also around the world really play with color. So in our sense, I believe that color tends to change your mood in a big way. Of course, materials help, but then if there's the right use of color, it can completely change the mood of the space, and it's worked for us. And I think every time that we do a project, we sit with a palette, we work out, of course. Okay, yeah, primarily we use brick, but then how does it relate to brick? But if you're using any secondary material, we still feel that color can play and change it drastically when you're doing one.
Right, right. I think I agree with you there, because students, they really want to explore, and then if you got a chance to observe, they want to feel the space when you choose a certain color. I would agree that sometimes somehow when you choose a color, it will reflected to the feelings, the emotion of people who want to use any kind of space. But another one, Fawad, because when I saw your collection of your projects, I mean your father's job and including your expertise and so on, you're talking about the technological innovations. I mean, we can see that this is kind of a responsibility not about technology. I mean, it's about ecology. In Malaysia, now this is a very common challenges. The builders, some of the builders could have an expertise, could have their talents, but I'm not sure about your project. I believe you should have your own special mason, own special builders to build up your design. Can you share with us?
Sure, sure. I think it's very important. You're absolutely right. I mean, but many times when you're doing a large building, the project is tendered out, so you really don't know who the contractor might be. But of course, if you have the drawings done, you have everything on paper, and you've got all the details worked out. There's absolutely no way that a new contractor, of course, he has to be trained. I remember architect Rafiq Azam from Bangladesh, who's one of my favorite architects, telling me, and he's been coming to Pakistan a lot, and I've been to him as well in Dhaka. Uh, every time that you do a new project, you train a new contractor, you need to train a new developer, and that means more work for others. And I think for us also, I try to bring in new people to our projects. It may be a family unit, a house, may be a larger project. We try and educate more and more people for them to understand what good design or good construction can be. If you do that, you're actually bringing more people to the fold. And every time we try not to use the same people, but try and bring in new teams and new people who can be trained on every project.
Indeed, indeed, I agree with you. Even myself, so the contractors, I mean the builders, they depends on our detailing, our drawings. Somehow or other, we need to go down, and we can share the experience, share the knowledge, educate them. That's what we call it a teamwork. That's why, Fawad, when I see the comments here, majority of the comments is about to appraise and compliments about your works. Everybody said it's beautiful
So
piece of works, nice buildings. there's only a few questions, but majority is about compliments to your job.
Thank you very much.
For what? In fact, the comments have a deliberation, discuss among themselves. I saw the student ask this question, and then I believe a practicing architect also give a commented while listening to your lectures just now. I mean, this is a good platform. It's not about listening to your talk, but in the chat groups, they can have a deliberation. They have a discussion about your job. For what? So I can see here, for what? There's a question from my good friend. He's also a background from Pakistan, but he's working in Malaysia. My good
Okay.
friend from all the way from Johor, southern part of Malaysia,
Yeah.
architect Dr. Malik Tasaduk.
Mhm.
He gave a comment, and then he gave an opinion about talking about the what we say that. Let me check it out. Yeah, he said about, hold on. Yeah, scrolling down, because he also commented to one of the question from students actually.
Mhm.
So he's saying that hold on. Clay brick is a beautiful building materials to work with, not very suitable for exterior walls in Malaysia due to the climates. And
Yeah, of course.
unfortunately, it's too, yeah, because we too do not have many mason to lay have a good bricks works here. So that's our challenge, because I can say that in Malaysia we have a few projects using a bricks, but they have produced a very good buildings, a very good brickworks. But I still can say the challenges part is we still looking for the talented or knowledgeable mason to lay a good bricks here. For what? I'm sure in Pakistan you have a very competent mason to do brickworks. That's our challenge
Yeah,
here
yeah,
in Malaysia.
definitely. Everyone can't do it. Everybody can't do it, surely. And of course, in the last couple of years, and of course, since the new government came in, there has been huge work towards construction, and there's been a number of improvements, of course. But that means that we need more people to do these buildings. My
Yeah,
various travels to KL, Malaysia, and other places in Malaysia. I mean, there's these huge buildings that are coming out. Of course, in terms of technology, you guys are much superior to what we're doing. But again, like the weather there and weather compared to Islamabad, because we're lucky. In Islamabad, you've got all four seasons, so we have to tackle all
yeah,
four. But there's extreme hot, there's extreme cold. Then you've got the autumn and spring as well. So we've been lucky that way. Even now, even in Islamabad, it rains a lot. We've had the pre-monsoon happening, so we have to tackle our buildings with the weather, the temperatures that are around it. So brick, we feel, of course, every architect has his own philosophy. We feel that brick is something that is more everlasting. It's a permanent material. It's timeless in all its glory, and it's something that it's tried and tested. So why not do something with things that are tried and tested rather than experimenting with fake materials as tiles and others, or natural stones from that matter? We should look into that as material.
exactly. There's one issues. I think there's a very common issues, but I'm sure at your country, Pakistan, facing the same issues. It's about maintenance.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So when we design, selects any kind of materials that we want to lay, and then the selection of colors, I mean, when you hand over to your end user, to your clients, the main issue is about how to maintain this. So can I ask you, is there any challenges about maintenance issue? Can you share with us or for your projects here?
That is all. There's always maintenance issues, because if you do not, of course, do materials that, and of course, if these areas are not approachable, uh, we lack in trying to maintain these buildings. If it's a building for the government, they're bigger factors, because there we have more problem. But the private building, the clients are still able to look after their building. So I mean, as architects, we first of all need to look at materials that are, of course, material friendly material buildings, but we need to look at the approach of how we're going to clean it. May it be glazing, may it be
Yeah.
cleaning an area which is not, if something is not approachable, there's absolutely no way that you can really go and look after it. So I think post-COVID has taught us that as well, that look at elements and look at details that are easy to work with, easy to maintain later, and you can do it on your own. I mean, if you look at a house itself, the reason that I survived COVID in at least in where I live is because luckily, of course, I had my office and
Yeah.
within my house, but then my house was as big as the one that I could maintain on my own. Then, of course, I had lots of landscape areas. So people need to really focus now on doing smaller buildings, smaller houses, so and more landscape, so that you can be outdoors rather than be indoors all the time.
Exactly. I think go for the self-maintains, easy maintenance, and low maintenance if possible.
Yeah, that's
There's
true.
one question from the interior students, Fawad. Yeah, interior
Yeah,
students from Taylor's University, one of our local university in Malaysia, Miss Hui Yi, asking about, she want to know the clay bricks, is it suitable for the exterior walls or maybe suitable for interiors? Can you give an opinion to her?
sure.
The brickworks
The
for
most
interior
important part,
works.
so the most important part is how do you want to lay the brick really. So one way is that if you do a proper brick, which is 3 by 4.5 by 9 inch, either you do go for a 13.5 inch wall, which is the exterior wall. For that, what happens in that is that of course it's insulated well, the house is insulated, the project is insulated, but then it becomes fair face brick from the inside and outside both. unless unless you feel that you're doing a 9 inch wall, which normally people do in Pakistan, and with the size of the brick, you
Mm-hmm.
do a special brick, which in Pakistan we call a gutka brick, and that's a smaller size, so it comes in various sizes from 3 inch to 2.5 inch, and others. And so we really need to, and in our case, we do a lot of brick walls inside the building as well, because there you need to really bring the interior exterior to the interior as well. You can't say, okay, my building from the outside is going to be brick, but there'll be no brick inside. No, I think there's always important to complement your exterior to the interior. For that, you need to make sure that you do buildings that are uh, uh, both sort of celebrated from both the inside and the outside.
Right, right. That's why I think I need to echo what Miss Najah Amran said. That the also facts really. I mean, you can see the comments. You know, they start to deliberate and give an opinion, and I can see Architect Anjumala from Sona. Thank you so much to joining us, because she gave a comment to you that it's a great work shared with the historical vibes. Thank you so much for what.
Paula is
Thank you,
such an amazing,
Anju.
she's an amazing architect, and of course, we've been lucky to go back to her country, and what an amazing country Nepal, Kathmandu is, and
Right.
we've been able to view the Mount Everest from, and then of course their architecture, and as people, they're such humble and such beautiful people. So I'm grateful to Anjumalia for her beautiful comments.
Exactly. I'm looking forward to visit Nepal soon. And then even I can see the past president of Acacia here. Forward, your architect, our past president architect Jahangir Khan also joined us today. Thank you so
Oh,
much,
great! Thank
Jahangir
you,
Khan.
Jhanvi.
Thank you. So there's one question. Even I know this my friend, Hisam Hanif. He said that one man's color is an approach to solve this kind of issues. Fawad, can you listen to me?
I lost you somewhere.
Okay, I'm sorry. I'm thinking my
Yeah,
line is a bit lagging here. Can you hear me now?
yeah, it's better now. It's better now. Yes.
Okay. So Mr. Hizam Hanif said, one man's color is another man's poison. So how do you approach to solve this kind of issues now? Very good question.
I mean, I think when you do a building for your clients, you really need to listen to them. I mean, there's absolutely no way that you don't listen to what people say. Number of times the clients come in and and you try to force yourself on your design on them, but we've always tried
Yeah.
to understand what the client needs. And in this case, and I think if I understand him correctly, unless the client's really involved in the dry design process in a major way, and what I've shown you today are all those people who were definitely involved. We would listen to them, they would listen to us, and the client, consultant, and contractor bond brought the project where it is because we listen to each other, try to look at cost-effective methods, try to look at a budget, and try to use the right color. You can't just say, okay, listen, I want to use a blue color, but the client wants to use a red color. You at least try and tell him why you're not using the red color rather than just really pushing it to him. So yeah, I mean, we try to do simple things. We try to bring in color where it's really needed. For me, white is a beautiful color. So why use white where it's needed, and why not use white where it's not needed? So that's how we've been able to educate our clients through the process. And I think you need to listen to everyone, especially your clients, when you're doing a project.
Right. Thank you for that. Thank you for that. There is a question from students. Jason, bricks are beautiful and age well on the wall, but now there are many people. He asking, what is your opinion about this? For what?
I lost you on the last thing.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you now.
Okay,
Yes.
sorry. There's a students, Jason. Okay, Jason, students from Masa. So he said that bricks are beautiful and age well on the wall. Okay, and there are so many people nowadays using recycled materials like plastics to make a bricks. So, what is your opinion about this, Fawad?
From where I come, brick has been being used as a very indigenous material in Pakistan. We've got very large brick kilns around. I don't agree with the way they're made fakely now. We do look at eco-friendly bricks, and we are still lucky that we have them in Pakistan, and we've been able to use our local masons and our local teams who are able to bring it. So we've had many companies come to us in the past few years that they put up a factory of bricks done in one of these automated areas or automated machines. But we've kind of not been very happy with the end result, and we've kind of shied away. So I think we try to really bring the local brick into our work and trying to really establish better environmental standards in Pakistan and use things that are locally manufactured.
Well done. Maybe I can go for one last question here, Fawad.
Sure.
There's a question say, what is the craziest idea that
The
you
craziest
ever
idea is still
built
to
so
come.
far?
It's never there. It hasn't come yet. I've tried to, I remember when I thought I'd ever do a swimming pool on the fifth floor of a building. I never thought I could do it. I did it on a fifth floor. Now I've done it on the 10th floor of a building. So thinking that water will be standing on the top of a building at 150 feet would really scare you, and being responsible for the design of that particular building. But yes, I mean, crazy ideas are going to pop in. We've been lucky to have clients who want to experiment. So, I'm still looking for that special crazy idea. And I think when I'm with you and Rida, I will come up with something soon.
Looking forward for that, Fawad. Looking forward for that. So, any last word, Fawad? Maybe you can say any last word before we
Well,
end the session today.
I only want to say, and I want to really make it a really important point for the great students that are on this, and of course all our fellow colleagues who are listening to me. I think you should never forget, like I said in my presentation, never forget where you come from, where you belong. And I think unless you've been part of your and part of your context, and you've looked at the historical context, you will always do better work and try and be humble in your design. I think we always try to do something which is out of the box, but it's something that doesn't work with where you work where it is. It starts to look alien. So try and do simple work and try and work on the details of your project. We just come up with these crazy ideas without really knowing how they're going to be built. So try and do buildings that are, try and know how they're built. Try and do lots of details. Try and do lots of sketching. Of course, all the other softwares are only a tool. What you need to know is how they're going to be constructed. Therefore, we in our office, I've learned this from my father, do lots of sketches, do lots of manual design, before you really transfer that to a software, because there is absolutely no comparison or compatibility between what you do by hand versus to do by a machine. So I think, and then you've got some amazing people around the world that can inspire you. Look at those inspiring people, those mentors, and then stick to doing good work than doing average work that everybody would do. And I think we've got fascinating people around the world who are doing it. So pick up your mentor and do good work and the best you can. So thank you very much again for the opportunity.
Thank you, Fawad. It's a great advice. It's a truly inspirational, motivated. I think what you have shown today, the details itself. So the details itself are not only the details that make the design, but somehow or other I can say design is an art. Creative architects must have a beautiful mind to create that. So you one of them. The way you showcase to us today, the materials and the colors, I think are the smiles of nature actually. Thank you so much, Fawad. Thank you for your time. We are so
I must
honored.
say, I must say that you're doing a great job. So is Masa, and I want to reinforce one thing, that whatever you are, you because of your country. And I think I've been very very honored to be representing my country, Pakistan. And I think you're nothing without your country. So I think we should always remember that. So whenever you design, don't forget where you come from. And so thank you very much, Adrianta, and the entire team that's behind this.
You're most welcome, Fawad. It's a pleasure and honor to have you today. Do send our regards to your father. Hopefully, all
I
the
will.
pandemics has over. We would like to invite you come to Kuala Lumpur. Maybe we can see in physical talks, physical
We will
session.
surely. Would be a pleasure. Thanks,
Do be
Adrianta.
safe. Be healthy. Thank you so
Thank
much.
you. Thank you. Bye.
Right,
Bye.
ladies and gentlemen, there you are. A very beautiful and motivate and inspirational session today. And materials in architecture by our architect Fawad. Do give me my lagging here. Okay, Guma, take over. Thank you.
Hey, thank you, Architect Adrianta, and also thank you, Architect Pawat, for that very interesting sharing and giving us very useful insights. As a student, I really enjoyed it, experimenting with materials, light, color, and textures. All right, so this marks the end of our talk today. Thank you for everyone for joining us today on this online sharing session, and thank you to our very special guest, Architect Pawat Suhail Abasi. Okay, so do stay tuned for our next event with architects in November. And for further information, do check us out in our social media platform, Masa's Instagram and Facebook for more updates. And do check out Architects Online for more interesting webinar. And if you haven't already done so, you can also register for PAM membership at mypam.org.my. There are a lot of benefits for architecture students. Until then, stay safe, stay healthy, and we'll catch you next time. Okay, bye-bye. Thank you.